Wait.
How many stairs must a man with bad judgment fall down before he decides to take the elevator? And how many explanations will some people swallow like goldfish until they are stuffed to the gills? And what are the consequences of attempting to learn the techniques of...
Good evening, colleagues around town, around the globe. Here we are again for an edition of Public Affairs Public Access. But I want to tell you, we are here for a special edition of the show because tonight the nation is facing some difficult decisions, and so am I, and so am all of you. But I have told you before that my people are always taking care of you by finding the story behind the story. And there's a big story going on in the nation's capital tonight. So I have taken an unprecedented step. I've told you before that my crack experts always find the real facts behind the curtain. And I'm going to show you what some of those people do for a living and how they interact with me. In other words, I brought some of my crack investigators with me tonight because things are going so fast that I can't even keep up with them. I have some special guests tonight to help me tell you what is really going on with this impeachment frenzy that is upon us now. These are people who are devoted to finding the truth or something very like it, or something sort of like it, or something highly entertaining. Let me introduce some of the people who came with me tonight. First person that you need to meet is Tom Foolery. Tom Foolery's been doing some work for, oh, that's not Tom. That is. Well, Tom Foolery's been doing some stuff for me as long as I can remember, but it all started back, I think, 1957 or 58, when a gas pipeline company decided to build a pipeline through his aunt's beautiful two-story retreat it was Maryland, wasn't it?
Or New Jersey. Yes.
Maryland or New Jersey, one of those. And he decided that it was very important to work with me. He had been working on misspelling bees and some kind of guerrilla chess contest for, you know, younger citizens, but he decided the work we do is more important. And he's now working for me when he's not working for the Tennessee Tattler. Now, Marginalia has been doing this kind of work for a long time, but before that, she was teaching fake news at Colgate University. I think the official name of the course, though, was Optional Historical Evidence. That right? Yes. Yes. And she also studied motel management. I'm not sure why, but she writes for the New Jersey Nitpicker when she's not doing work for me. And Gymnasium, well, Gymnasium and I go back, I think, 252 years. Jim was an equipment manager for a string of failed rock bands. And after that, I think he found this to be the only kind of work that was redeeming for him. So when he's not writing for the Philadelphia Fumigator, he's working for me. And we have other investigators. Of course, I couldn't get them all assembled here tonight, but these people are some of my best researchers, and they're going to tell you what they know about stuff. Question that jumps out at all of us.
Excuse me, boss, before we start, we've already had our first alternative fact of the evening. It's not been 252 years. It's been 251 years, 10 months, 7 days, 12 hours, 6 minutes.
Well, he was honoring the fake news teacher right here by giving just slightly modified information.
There we go.
That's
And I
right.
really appreciate that. It's an important genre to cover in today's education.
I didn't know they called it a genre, but
Fake news, of course.
oh, okay. Well, you used to tell me it was a jumpsuit, but I guess that's neither here nor there. What's really important right now is the frenzy we see in Washington. That involves a lot of name calling by the president. You may have seen his terminology that he used for Adam Schiff. I think we have a news clipping we can show you there. He labeled our distinguished Intelligence Committee chair on the House as a wounded sardine. He also said that Nancy Pelosi can't be trusted with 9 irons or prayer biscuits. I'm not sure what a prayer biscuit is, but if you guys remember, just speak up. There have been countercharges, of course. The Democrats don't take this kind of stuff laying down or sitting up. The charges against the young Biden, for example, involve him making $50,000 a year in a job he's not qualified for. But I'm doing some research. My staff tells me where to look. It turns out that the younger Biden did a job that most of us can't do. What he did was he adhered to an ancient religious practice that is found among gas company executives in the Ukraine, that when they make important decisions, they need to be sat upon. Some of these guys weighed hundreds of pounds. In fact, what young Biden sat on amounted to 1,450 pounds of gas company executives. And if you want to know my opinion, $50,000, well worth it for a gimmick like that. But things are now charging into hyperspeed. We have. What do you think? Does it have to do with the onslaught of the Mueller investigation and a follow-up?
That's a good question, boss. I think the Mueller investigation did not turn up a smoking gun, so they think they now, with this Ukraine call, they've turned up a stink bomb, and I think that's what's pushing it with such urgency.
So you're saying that the Mueller report was all rubber bullets?
That's correct, absolutely.
Well, that's part of it, but some people think that Pelosi just got religion. Nancy Pelosi, you know, they say
I
she's...
thought you meant Eugene Pelosi.
No.
I thought you meant John Belushi.
No,
Did she a member of the Pelosi crime family in New Jersey?
Well, she was, but I think
Remember, they went to a church and they asked for God's help to get their band back together.
Wasn't that was the one in the Valentine's Day massacre?
Out.
Okay.
Okay, well, be that as it may, a lot of people say Nancy is really good at counting. You know, they've always, I don't know if that's true, but in base 10 anyway, she used to be pretty good at counting, but it looks like now she is looking at base 20. I'm talking about 2020, whereas her opponent, if you want to call him that, Donald Trump, is still looking at base 2016.
Well, I think the general public really just wants good bass.
That's
Just sounds better.
It's
It
all
comes
about.
out better
It's
from
all-
speakers,
it's,
really.
some things are still
Strong bass.
not legal.
It really doesn't matter.
Now, my understanding is one reason that things are accelerating so fast, Adam Schiff was given a heads up that there was going to be some sort of a complaint, but apparently forgot about it. That's what y'all are telling me. But then somebody explained to him what a subpoena was, and he got hot-wired. Have I got that right?
To the extent one can, now that Radio Shack is closed, that's correct.
Okay. And speaking...
No, in fact, actually, the truth was that he was price-lined.
And does that affect him the same way it would affect you or me?
I thought he put the subpoena on eBay and had gotten some pretty good bids for it, but...
Yeah, I bid on it.
Okay.
Well, so did I, but I thought I was bidding on a picture of it.
No, it's the actual subpoena.
Yeah, all right.
Shipping was
It's
better
going to
through
be quite a
Amazon.
collector's item, I'm sure.
I actually heard it was a detachable subpoena.
Oh, okay. We use those sometimes. We'll get into that a little bit later because we have some scientific evidence that you might want to look at. But
The
I think
photo had it lying on a blanket.
one other thing that I think has kicked things into high gear, you know, there were some Democrats who were resisting impeachment. I think they called themselves the Ukrainian Folk Song Caucus. But what they really called themselves, according to Jim, I mean, he told me this, they called themselves the I really hate Trump, but I really love this job caucus. And now that the train is leaving the station, they don't want to be the last ones to get on.
That's true. They've looked at the state of health care in this country and decided they have it pretty cushy with the health care that's given to representatives in the House. So they've decided
So
at
they
all
don't
costs to keep their job. Yes.
All right, so they don't want to be treated like the rest of us.
I think they were going by maritime rules. In New Jersey, we had something called the Sea Caucus, which allowed you to venture out and therefore be attended by one of these international boats for healthcare.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because pretty soon here we're going to get into the subject of squid pro quo, but let's hang on just a minute. First thing I want to ask you about, I've said this before, when intelligence agencies talk about things that they're going to be willing to share with you, they always say that they have to protect their sources and methods. Okay, that's why they redact everything. My people, however, they know about sources and methods, but they're willing to tell you what some of the sources and methods are. Isn't that right? You can talk about your sources, can't you? Mm-hmm.
My source donned the Stay Puft Marshmallow suit and went into the White House to gather information. And he was so accepted because he brought so much nostalgia to the people and served marshmallows. They didn't even notice that he was gathering his data.
Were these preheated?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I personally am my own source. I disguised myself and told the White House I was a tanning spray technician. And I was admitted to the White House and to all meetings. It was spectacular tomfoolery on my part, if I might be so bold.
Yes.
So you might have been the guy that sprayed our Ritz crackers to look like graham crackers.
Well, that's quite
the
possible.
s'mores.
Yeah.
You people don't argue amongst yourselves, do you?
No, but that is his side gig, so I respect that. Actually, this question, is music to my ears, I would say. For me, my sourcing relies on the one God. I think, as Jacob said in the good book, every governing body deserves fudge. And so, specifically, I would hearken back to that one tenet that he offered, screwus governus multo retardo rinse repeatus.
I used to, I think that's the first one I learned on the guitar when I was young.
Yeah, we actually had a prayer that sounded a lot like that when I was in Catholic school. But
Yeah, Sunday school.
yeah,
Yeah, as Jews do too on Sunday.
I do remember saying it wrong and getting repeatedly hit on the hands with the ruler for saying
Well, listen,
it wrong.
Was it tape measure?
That reminds me of the first lesson we have. Vous avez dit une chose que n'est pas correct.
I appreciate your sharing these sources, but I thought some of you, more than one of you, told me that you got close to the White House yoga instructor and that he or she spilled, what, beans?
Well, since nobody in the White House actually takes yoga, obviously, from looking
Okay,
at them, you may have misinterpreted
I must be
that one.
thinking of Paraguay.
It's actually the Zumba instructor.
And didn't one of you say that you struck up a relationship with the Uber driver who brought the crab leg tacos?
Pizza. It was gluten-free pizza.
Okay, when the staff was meeting late at night. So,
On Labor Day.
and then
Solely.
That was very clever of you, March. I wish I had thought of using an Uber driver. I could have saved all that money I spent.
okay,
on spray
okay,
tanning
that's
equipment.
enough about sort. What about
Quite a bit of staff members who have dietary restrictions in the White House, and if you can get an Uber driver that specifically addresses those issues, they're very welcoming.
It was cage-free crab pizza.
All right,
pineapple?
that covers sources. Let's talk about methods now. One of you told me in confidence, so I'm not going to point you out right now. One of you told me in confidence a long time ago that you loaned a lot of people screwdrivers. That was a method, but it wasn't clear to me what why they needed the
You know,
screwdriver.
boss, look, you're going to bring this up. Yes, this was the wobbly furniture spy method. Thanks a lot.
Okay, all right. Any methods
Well,
that you want to share?
I snuck into the White House laundry room and hid in a pile of dirty laundry for 2 weeks, living only on dog biscuits and a nice little Pinot, very, very good, gentle Pinot Noir. So that was one of the things the loose furniture is just brilliant, sir. I wish I had
I hope
thought
no one
of
was
that.
injured. He wasn't supposed to trace back to me.
I pretended to have attended too many rock concerts and couldn't hear anything people were saying.
So they spoke freely in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just told them I'd blown out my eardrums. Both.
Okay, so I think all of you out there are starting to appreciate how clever my researchers are, how they get attached inside one of these places of business or centers of government where important things are being discussed, and then nobody even notices they're there. But having talked about sources and methods, because nobody else will, I want to talk now about this big crisis that we have. And really, the hubbub here has really started with the disclosure of a phone call to the Ukraine. And what do we know about it? Well, I know something. There is a company called Ukraine. Don't we have their web page? The web page for you? Yeah, there we are. Ukraine, I'm not sure where they're headquartered, but it looks like they will build just about anything that you want, wherever you want it, and that might even include a wall, if what you wanted to build was a wall. So the first thing that the president said, if you'll recall, was that he wasn't talking to the president of a country, he was talking to the president of a company. And I think he probably meant Ukraine.
Yes, I think actually I was talking to Tim Apple about the new product, the Ukraine, launching this fall.
Apple seems to have a finger in everything, don't they?
Or at least a worm.
It was my understanding from my sources that the president thought he was actually going to be on YouTube. And he didn't really understand that Ukraine is, in fact, a country and not a internet source.
I see.
I'd swear I saw him on YouPorn. Maybe that's just me.
Well, what confuses a lot of people,
Maybe he didn't realize he was using a cross-platform app to tweet.
Could we get that in English?
On a dit qu'il utilise une app pour toutes les choses.
now be careful.
Pity an old man here, and let's keep this old man friendly.
Okay.
Gomenasai.
If I may, in this call, apparently, there was discussion of the javelins. And it's not clear if the president understood what javelins were being referred to, but the president of the Ukraine, if that's who he was talking to, apparently thought that the javelins were a defense system that was already promised to them. Now, one of you, Siegfried, who's not here tonight, one of your colleagues, I should say, Siegfried told me that the president had already decided on giving them a weapon system that was primitive by our standards. Do we have a picture of that weapon? Yeah. That thing, I don't know if you could even drive that on the interstate. But if this is what was going on, then the president didn't understand what we had promised the country. Or does it have something to do with the javelins per se?
You know, ever since Eric's little mishap in track and field, I understand Melania does not allow javelins in the house.
That might
We're required
explain
only
it.
to use them at the Renaissance Festival for jousting purposes, which Washington, D.C. doesn't have one within a 50-mile range, which causes it to be actually an out-of-state activity, which doesn't bring it within the jurisdiction of the White House.
And one of the most popular movies this summer season has been Jousting Porpoises. I haven't had a chance to see it myself, but you've all...
Cross porpoises.
Huh?
Cross porpoises.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they put it right out there in front of people, and they don't seem to get the message. But
I don't want to be a spoiler, but sharks are involved in the tragic end to that movie. But
Have you seen
it's a tearjerker.
the new the shark porpoises exhibit at the Smithsonian?
No, I have not.
It's tragic.
I've been
tragic.
working hard. I haven't had time to goof off and go to the Smithsonian like some people apparently have.
Well, another
it's a very
thing.
moving piece. I highly recommend you check it out, but take some tissues.
Okay. Another thing that was on display at the Smithsonian this week was the still living squid pro quo, and my understanding was that Republicans keep talking about there not being any squid pro quo in the call. I've listened to the call and read the text a couple of times. I don't see any mention of squid pro quo. I think it's one of those new, fake meat products.
I thought it was shoe polish.
Well, I mean, some things have dual use. That's why we have a commerce department.
Like my grandmother.
Yeah.
What they're actually talking about is
There was a tragic accident with the pitchfork and your grandmother. I do want to express my sympathies.
Yeah. Well, the box was small and the fire was short, so.
So
I say, well,
she went without pain?
No, there was a lot.
Oh, was there? Oh.
I always try to go everywhere with pain. I think that way I remember the experience better.
Yeah.
I know.
I seen the way you-
Payne is in fact my middle name.
It's
Jim
actually-
Payne Gymnasium. I don't know if you were aware of that.
I
or not,
did.
But
After 251 years, you'd think I would remember something like that. But
well, God knows you never pay attention to anything in my
just
personal
remembers
life.
what
So
he
why?
wants to.
Yeah.
all right.
convenient.
Let me just ask you one
Sorry to say
question
that.
here that keeps bugging me. We've already seen a list of seems like a dozen people that have listened to this call, but it sounds like there must have been an auditorium full of people listening to this call. You got anything on that?
Well, we all know, of course, Putin was definitely listening to the call. In fact, he programmed the teleprompter for Mr. Trump, so he knew what to say to the Ukrainian president.
Well, don't forget, your mom was listening to the call while she was cooking me dinner.
Ooh.
Delicious pot roast.
Your mom made pot roast for her, too? Jesus.
Okay.
You're only worth spaghetti. What can I tell you? You're not worth my mom's
May I-
pot
may
roast.
I
add
guess
the
we've touched
transcript.
on something sensitive here.
Moving right along, I'd like to offer the transcript that I got from, what is that, radio source in New York that offered, there is a Casey Kasem element to this. As I understand it, the transcript reads, dragging us down to number 2 is a guy who writes from Washington, Dear Casey, I'm a contender for national office. I've painted myself into a corner, and I'm afraid my only chance to be rescued is by a herd of spineless elephants living in a swamp. Will you play The Mitch is Back, going out to my second favorite autocrat?
Well, that explains
That's-
it.
yeah,
that explains
says
it all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good
So
work.
let's-
Good work.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Great
move
find
on.
there.
Let's just, if we can.
The answers are there.
The other thing that is upsetting a lot of people and exciting some others, for example, I know that Rachel Maddow was apparently just awoken from the sleep state that she was in. Now she wants a camera in every room of her house in case she thinks of something to say on TV, but I digress.
I heard it was after she suffered a concussion while snowboarding in Colorado.
She wanted that on TV too, is the way I understand it.
Oh,
But
that's right. Right, and now I think that for the hearings, right, she's volunteering to be subpoenaed. She's very well read, she's very well informed. I think that particularly from Colorado, she's looking for a long distance opportunity, but it's not clear whether she expects to be grilled or baked.
well,
I'm confused. Is she in some way related to Karen Ann Quinlan or
It's probably more
No,
of a chance of being baked
Karen
from that
Carpenter.
region of the
Karen
country.
Carpenter? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That demographic really would.
let me talk a little bit though about the secret server, because you've all been looking into this, I know, and I just mentioned Siegfried a while ago. Sig is not with us tonight. We don't know if he's still among the living, for that matter, but he's probably in hiding. He sent me some pictures. The secret server that's talked about in that phone call, it's not talked about in the phone call. The phone call digital record of same was put in a secret server, if I'm going to be precise. Well, there were some pictures that Siegfried sent me. The first picture shows that the secret server may have been heavily disguised. It looks a lot like an array of commode seats. And he sent me another picture which looks a whole lot like what I have under my kitchen sink. And then the very last call that I got from him, he seemed to be really excited, and he said that the secret server has already been destroyed. Yeah, I'm looking at the picture. If that's it, it's certainly destroyed. But I know you all looked for it, and I want to know where it was, and I want to know how you found it. Because you all seem to believe you found the secret server.
I'm actually confused. I thought a secret server was what happened when you tried to get service at a Denny's. Is that, you're saying a secret server is actually a physical piece of equipment, or is it just a manifestation of a spiritual being?
I thought it was those little notes that you send for your friends on Valentine's Day in elementary school.
Oh.
Messages.
And I've composed a haiku. It goes something like, 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a toilet seat.
Well,
I
that's the
could
answer.
swear that one of you sent me a message last night.
Yes,
It was
I
a 30
remember.
minute
I remember.
restroom
It was
on Air
my
Force One. Right. Yes. That
is-
mention of the toilets reminded me.
The women's room on Air Force One
Yes.
is where they hid the secret server?
Absolutely.
No, that is absolutely not. I have firm proof that it's in the New England Patriots locker room, along with the Spygate cameras that are carefully hidden away where no one can see them.
All right. You know, I can't help thinking there was probably more than one secret server, because
That's what we have here. There must have been a copycat, a duplicate.
There was a secret server on the grassy knoll, in fact.
Then there would be 3.
There was a secret server from behind
Yes,
and
Well-
off to the side.
I believe so. Yes.
That sounds
I think
like
the
more like a
ballistics will
menage a trois right there.
conclusively prove that.
You see, I was told that there is a secret server, that it was in the White House bowling alley, but it's broken. And that makes sense to me, because this all started with a whistling bowler, didn't it?
The hat or the shoe?
Somebody accidentally stomped on it while they were in Zumba class.
No, the president has a lot of shoes. We know that. You sent pictures. They're very stylish, but they're not all the same size, whatever that's about.
You mean left, right?
No,
yeah,
I mean
symmetrical.
8.5 to 13.5. I don't know what he does with his feet.
He wears
now
the shoes on his hands.
There is another possibility here, boss, that the secret server could be hiding almost in plain sight, and in fact in Donald Trump's hair. I think
True.
that's a
There's a
distinct
lot of room
possibility.
there.
Okay.
We could be missing. That's the perfect place to hide it. We
Yeah,
could be
because
missing.
no
it
one would ever look
under-
for it. No one would ever look for any sort of intelligent device
right
his
under our
hair.
toupees. I mean noses.
Okay. I keep wondering if this is a Mac or a PC, by the way, because it's probably Unix, or it's something complicated so that people can't just indiscriminately file things in there.
Absolutely.
I had heard it was
or,
actually an abacus.
that too.
The last time I had to deal with Unix was a bad trip in Bangkok.
Yep.
Okay.
That was. I remember your grandmother telling me about this shortly before her tragic death.
Yeah.
That was
must
a
have been
bad year
terribly
for you.
traumatic.
Yeah. That was a bad year for
Life
you.
on a razor's edge.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. I've been hearing that there's stuff in that secret server, documents about, pictures of, and God knows what else, William Barr, the Attorney General. Am I right?
There is, in fact, my sources tell me there's a recording of his first punk rock band, the Large Intestines. I've
I
heard
think I
that
may have heard. I think I've been to one of their shows.
they were famous because they played their guitars. They had 2 lead guitars, but each of them only had 1 string on their guitar, so they could only play 1 or 2 notes. But
And
in
as
the punk rock world, and in Barr's world, in fact, that's 2 notes are sufficient for any justification of anything going forward.
Yeah, there was also something about his abduction by aliens on the planet Sirius, or from
you're
the
talking
planet
about
Sirius.
SERIOUS.
Yes.
That's a planet that doesn't get mentioned too often, except in highly classified intelligence agency documents, so you might be onto something there.
It's come up in the last few weeks with the Area 51 raves. People are really discussing that there were signs and protests everywhere saying we really believe in Sirius.
And actually, it's
Seriously.
worth noting that the Area 51 raves are much better than going out in the desert and jumping around in circus outfits.
Yes,
I would agree.
I'm not sure you're aware of this, Paul, but Tom, in fact, does speak serious language.
I do.
He's been listening to the
well,
Sirius
there was.
podcast
I had
from
a
the planet
phone
Sirius.
call recently that I couldn't make out.
Ve'arba'a anashim hayu metzoraim pentacha sha'ar. It's for you.
That explains a lot right there.
Thank you.
You know, while I'm talking about William Barr, you know what that guy is up to now? He is
5'8".
5'8.5", I think, and he was in the backfield, as you know, without much equipment. But
More
he-
like
he wears
5'7.5"
lifts.
by the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he wears lifts in his shoes. That's a little known
while
fact.
I'm
You're setting
talking
the bar
about
pretty low.
Yeah.
as I'm talking about William Barr here, what I'm trying to tell you people, because none of you seem to be on this, that William Barr is out there. Well, it's stuff like he did in high school. In high school, he was giving girls haircuts that they didn't ask for. I mean, that's been reported in the Philadelphia Fumigator, but not by you apparently.
I don't consider that an offense unless he actually sniffed the hair. You know, had he given unauthorized haircuts and then sniffed the hair, I would have been all over that one.
All right. Well, he's looking for skeletons now.
In the hair.
Skeletons in the closets of Democrats, and in particular, he has been going around the world and asking foreign governments, our allies, to help manufacture scandals about the Obama administration, because he doesn't seem to be getting anywhere with the younger Biden.
Well, they should have been coming to Colgate for fake news. We are actually the premier education institution for that particular type of information. I'm not sure why he felt he needed to outsource it to another country. I mean, fake news is what we do.
Well,
We are the experts.
if
I would, you know, they would have had interns all waiting in line to be employed in that job, to fulfill that need.
It's a domestic opportunity. I think it's untapped. I think the living wage right now barely covers the talent resources that we see all over the dark web.
Yeah, that's the problem with the Trump administration. He talks about bringing jobs back to America, but you know, he's making relationships and creating jobs all over the world.
Why does he rely on Russia? Why do the Democrats rely on Ukraine for this? We have the domestic opportunity right here to tear down our own democracy.
In fact,
well, that brings to mind that Nancy Pelosi, in recent days, apparently decided that Jerry Nadler wasn't doing the work that he should have been doing, and so now he's going to head a House committee on circuses because he's already held several circuses.
he's got tons of experience
yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a circus.
And so
Yeah, decades of
anything you're
circus.
talking about here would be just food for thought for a committee like that.
Now, would these circuses have the spineless elephants that we
I think so.
so richly
Yeah,
deserve?
yeah.
Yeah, from the south of India only.
Okay.
There's other things I assume that were hidden away in these secret servers. I'm kind of hesitant to ask you if you can describe stuff that you've seen, like you see here in regular reporting, you see that there was a list of new names for countries. Mm-hmm. What do you think that's about?
I think that is that's Big Elbonia and their lobbying in Congress.
All right, and there was a YouTube video on frog marching.
Mm-hmm.
That's when there was also there was a book, Constitution for Dummies, but you could tell the file had not even been opened. So I think that's indicative of some of the things we're seeing going on in the Trump administration today.
Well,
that and frog marches.
Well, let me tell you what somebody else told me. I guess it was Siegfried told me there was another copy of the Constitution for Dummies that was highlighted on just about every other page. So
That's what I had heard.
somebody seems not to be worried, and somebody else seems to be mighty worried.
Yeah, that's called the Kavanaugh edition.
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that. Tell me this. There was a map of the Great Wall of China, and it had some notes on it about this is how high it is in this place.
As I'd like to bring up, as President Richard Nixon famously said on his trip to China, well, it certainly is a great wall. So I think that's an important part of history that I don't think some of these younger people actually appreciate.
There were actually a few editions. One was published in California, one was published in Washington, one was published in Colorado. Just naming how high these aspects, these areas of the China were.
I see.
Well of China
I think
were.
we're missing the point. I think that in our diplomacy, our greatest moment recently was when George Bush went to the premier of China and said, "Tear down this wall."
Well, he did, but I mean, it took him an entire weekend, as I remember.
Now,
I'm not sure
does
we
the
have
Great
that.
Wall of China, do they have water containing alligators on the top of the wall, or is that an urban legend?
No, there's a partnership with Biden's son in order to get water slides along the top, but they have alligators that are on the way.
Okay. Now,
All right,
are these
now-
spineless alligators, or are they
Spineless alligators and elephants.
from India as well?
South of India.
And you will remember the discussions about a moat to accompany the wall, and in this moat would be all sorts of things like snakes, like crocodiles, but apparently from what I have seen, and Siegfried was adamant about this, that they were making simulated, mechanical snakes.
You know, this is actually a good
to
thing.
save money.
Right. I mean, they do have to credit the Trump administration with one good idea, you know, with the creation of the wall, with Mexico and a moat. Solar Turbines and several other companies are now competing to create a wave generation system to make it, you know, more exciting and dangerous. And that's created a lot of, you know, rise in stocks for that general
But won't
industry.
that lead to our brave Border Patrol agents getting wave cancer if they have these waves going back and forth on the moat? I think that should be a serious concern.
I think it'll lead to
true.
another. You know, we have middle-aged men these days jumping from the tops of skyscrapers. They have a name for this sport. I don't.
Base jumping.
That's it.
Base.
And of course we
Not
were.
to be confused with Base 2020.
But
Well, no, I was just about to ask you if there's some connection
when
because
they go without the squirrel suit, it's called naked base jumping. But they don't usually have repeat performances.
That was one of your grandmother's favorite hobbies, was it not?
Well, I didn't realize it was a squirrel. I simply thought it was a wad of duct tape with eye holes, but
I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm learning a lot here.
my grandmother can take it. Go ahead. Rest
Okay,
your soul.
when we were talking about sources and methods, you told me that there was a way to get into the east wing of the White House during certain parts of winter that involved.
Yes, so there was a time when I lived in Washington, D.C., you can tell by my accent, that when it would snow, I think it was 2010, we called it Snowmageddon, I did find it was possible during the Obama White House on the east side of the compound. When snow got about so high, it was very easy to tunnel through. Now, it did take a very long extension cord from my car in order to use a heating element, but these days I would probably recommend just a photo of Stephen Miller, you know, that brings about enough hellfire probably for at least 30 feet at a time.
Well, that sounds like so much trouble, whereas you can get into the West Wing through the underground rave circuit.
To the underground, no kidding.
Yeah. They have underground raves there weekly, and if you manage to get in the door that way, you're already in.
But you
through
need
the
to
West
bring
Wing.
a lot of Dr. Bronner's for foam. That's part of the entry.
I see.
You simply need to get on Melania's guest list, which I won't disclose how I've done that, but
Well,
that makes entry very, very easy.
if you're talking about millennia,
Thousands of millennia.
yeah, but also the one that married Donald Trump. We said there were a lot of people on the call, and one thing Sig told me, he said you guys were going to argue with me, was that Melania was listening in on the call we were talking about,
Well, she was.
along
because
with her translator.
President Trump, trying to appeal to a younger generation, wanted some millennials to be involved in the call, and that got translated incorrectly. So Melania ended up being dragged out of the bedroom and forced to listen to this phone call.
Okay.
It didn't work either because millennials don't do phone calls. You know, they only text.
They only text.
They wear the right raincoats that say, "We don't care, do you?" But
Yeah. Okay. Before I leave this subject, and this is kind of painful to even cover, because I think y'all are avoiding this question, that when I asked you, is there anything else in there that's interesting in the Secret Server? Nobody talked about those random pages from the 28th Amendment. As a matter of fact, it looked like there were draft texts for the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. Now, I don't know about y'all, but the last one I read in public was the 26th. I don't know what the 27th is, and I don't know what the 29th is, but we've got some of the text. Don't we have the text? Can you show them what's in the 28th Amendment there? Yeah. Now, I don't know if this upsets all of America, but it upset me. It says, after a phrase about tuna sandwiches, and I don't know what that means. However, if it becomes obvious that nearly all the Democrats in Congress are traitors, the President is entitled to suspend or revise the Constitution and declare himself king, and then it trails off there. We don't
You know
have the
what,
whole...
that is
what
fake.
is such a sexist rule? Because why wouldn't he declare himself queen? Why does it have to be king, only king?
I
We are
think-
still such a
Well,
patriarchal
there's
country.
27, 28, and 29. Maybe they kept changing it.
Fundamentally, I don't like this phrase. I don't like propagating it, but this right here is what I consider fake news. There is no 29th Amendment. It is a leap amendment. There's a 28th and there's a 30th. 30th Amendment is written in Sharpie, does refer to the things you're speaking of.
Okay, yeah,
It outlaws
I forgot
it outlaws
that.
the National Weather Service, does it not?
Every 4 years, yes.
He just questioned the utility of fake news. I'm not sure I can continue in this conversation.
well, I mean, you left that business to work on things like this, didn't you?
It's true, but I still find it to be a very valuable mode of education, of genre that inspires the youth to at least be involved in journalism, in current events. Whether or not those events reported are accurate, at least they're involved in journalism and current
Well, I
events. At
can't
least they're
argue with you,
learning
but
to write.
Jim might be able to
complete
argue with you, but I can't.
I've given up argument with
I'm-
Marge.
Okay, well, you have that segment of educational experience all to yourself, because I don't think we want to go there. But y'all keep distracting me when I'm trying to get to the bottom
Well,
of
it's a good question. I mean, how do you encourage the youth of today to learn to write complete sentences?
Well, I mean, those are overrated, aren't they? I mean,
That's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg has said.
yeah. So, I mean, we have gone through most of this show, 45 minutes of it already, without bothering to religiously advocate complete sentences at every turn.
Or even more than 140 characters. I mean, how do you encourage the youth of today and actually
Well, there's a
get
lot
them
of-
to understand that they need to write things that are more than 140 characters?
There's a lot of
Their
characters.
very own president, all he does is write things that are 140
I
characters.
fully-
or
I
Peach
less.
smiley eggplant, peach smiley eggplant.
Oh,
I fully support complete sentences, I might say, boss, because I think early parole is just a terrible way that contributes to a crime wave throughout the country, and I think all prisoners should be required to complete their sentences.
Well, you won't get any argument from me, except that I asked y'all before you came here, I said, I need to know if there are transcripts of other calls in those secret.
okay. Let's get down to business.
I mean,
We have
are
much
there
time
other
left.
transcripts of some calls? Are there secret documents about the border wall? I mean,
There was a talk with Netanyahu about race car drivers, I'll admit.
oh, and he would know, wouldn't he?
He would.
He would know.
Yeah.
What about?
There was a transcript where it was actually a live phone call with a base jumper that was talking to the vice president as he was jumping from a large building. So there's a transcript. It mainly consists of ah.
But I
of wind
understand.
noise,
I
right?
understand
Had
that
a lot of wind noise. Yes.
Window.
if you have a tape recording that goes with the jump, that gives you more points in the standings. Is that the idea?
Well, he wasn't standing. I think at the end it was more of pancaking.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the tragic one where he forgot to actually attach the rope. As
Yeah,
I
that
recall.
was-
Yes.
yeah, that was
hence the scream when he realized that he had in fact forgotten to attach his
That
rope.
was actually Dan Quill's backpack from scouting, yes.
And to bring Vladimir Putin back into the conversation, there was a discussion with him about the differences between Buddhism and breakdancing.
And there are at least 3 that I can think of.
What would those be?
I'm the one that's not at liberty to say. That's why I
Oh,
brought you all aboard tonight. There are some things, you know the classification system, above cosmic, above external, above planetary, above...
well,
It
for
is,
example,
and it is well
there's...
known that Vladimir Putin was a big fan of the movie Flashdance from the 80s. So I think that there could be some credibility to that he would want to talk about breakdancing.
Yeah,
in
one
that
difference
context.
there, and breakdancing is a movement art, whereas Buddhism is more of a silent
Sitting
meditative
still,
art.
Yeah.
not moving.
Yeah, is that why he had trouble with the weight control? Was because he didn't move much? Is that?
Yeah, he was
theory?
unable to get engaged too much with the breakdancing, sadly.
Yes.
Sadly, the story was very not moving.
Yeah, you know, a lot of things about this are making a lot of us move and think. I mean, I know you're a big fan of thinking and so forth, but what I'm wondering, are the Republicans thinking of a way out of this mess? I mean, are they planning? First of all, we could ask, what about the presidential candidates? I mean, there are a bunch of Democrats running for president. I think they all just jumped aboard right away and said, yep, impeach. But they're not saying much else. I think they may be waiting to cash in on the World Series. You know,
Yeah. Particularly in light with the World Series, their message has been quite clear to the American people. It has been something along the lines of
Now, see, I'll actually disagree with you there, Tom, because the stolen base is just not a part of the game as it used to be, and that was clearly a signal to steal the base. So.
especially stealing third.
Or they just simply might not have recovered from the ending of the Game of Thrones season, the show. It was a devastating loss to so many Americans. I can't imagine that it wasn't for them as well.
I think a couple of Democratic presidential candidates think people should be smoking the green stuff. Do you think that would help the president? I mean, maybe he could stumble on the truth if he, you know, as kind of like a truth serum.
Green and orange might mix to make a more of a brunette. That could help.
A style statement.
It could increase some IQ points.
Well, yeah. Well, there is.
And again, your Uber driver that delivers the pizza his business would just rise astronomically because the munchies would set in, and this White House staff would be eating enormous amounts of pizza.
It's true. We
Gluten-free
get
pizza,
so
as
much
I recall.
more
Is
information.
that correct?
Absolutely.
As I recall, I think Senator Grassley of Iowa had a statement from the This Is Fine subcommittee where he referred to actually it was sort of an across the aisle gesture to Beto about the dime bag platform, which would bring about more opportunity for remunerative access for communities, largely in Colorado, but a national opportunity.
I kind of think you're reaching for straws there. I mean,
Paper straws.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, the problems that we face now are immense, and that sounds more like FM radio to me, what you're saying. But
I don't listen to FM radio.
okay, well,
And why would that be?
I'm effing tired of FM radio.
yeah. Okay,
I'm only listening on the radio during the morning, so I only listen to AM.
okay, well,
Getting back to transcripts of other calls, I also have my notes from my sources say there was one with Rudy talking to Fox News about his work for the State
That's
Department.
Fox News, I thought he was talking.
Oh, that could be Fox News, yes.
Yeah.
But it wasn't clear which country's State Department was involved in the actual phone call, and Rudy apparently had no idea. He just knew it was a State Department.
Yeah, and he seems to have a preference for just about any of them that are off limits. I guess that's...
working with any State Department other than the United States, I think, is a...
Okay, I understand. So...
Because they will actually listen to him. Fox News and other State Departments are the only people that will actually... I believe you can confirm that from your sources as well.
Yeah, my fake news sources do say that.
All right, well, let me just try to put it in the form of a question that we can all work with. I look at the mess we're in and I say, what's next? What's next?
I'm afraid that the president is going to reach out to other nations looking for them to assist with dirt. It's my understanding that he's queued up the Bahamas and Puerto Rico.
And Greenland. My sources are very firm that Greenland is some of the native Aleutians are very upset with his proposed plan to buy Greenland, so they're actually going to work digging up dirt on Biden.
So why would they? Oh, I see.
Well, I mean, also it's, I'm really sad to report that my sources they're lacking, they're running really low on marshmallows. And this has
I thought
come
you
to the
could eat
attention of-
squid pro quo. I mean, it tastes just like...
Like chipmunk tartare, yes,
in fact,
very similar.
In fact, one of the global warming, one of the greatest consequences is not only will squid pro quo go extinct, but marshmallows are going to become a rare item.
they might have
Gluten-free
It's,
marshmallows.
well, it's the
in fact,
elimination
will
of
be
their
extremely
habitat.
rare.
Yeah, tofu stocks are going to go on the rise, as well as white dye.
Yeah. Let me just...
Middle-aged white dye.
Let me cut to the chase here. Each of you obviously you didn't want to talk about this very much. You sent me a picture of what you thought the future would be like. And I'd really like to draw you out.
What?
Can we have that first picture they sent me about what the future will be like? You don't have it?
I'm looking for it.
It's under pick one, isn't it?
I believe it's
Maybe-
is it an egg beater?
Is a
believe it
picture
may
of
be-
Trump's wall? I heard. I mean, I saw some
Maybe he
correspondence
doesn't.
from...
I mean, maybe it. See what it looked. Oh, there
I think
it is.
I think it's been moved
There
to
we
one of
go.
the secret servers.
Oh,
Yeah, I was afraid that we would have lost that document, but I'm not going to give away who sent me that picture. But
Well,
Jim,
I can speak to the fact that I believe I was trying to symbolize that egg beaters are the wave of the future, because as the baby boomers get older, the cholesterol becomes a very significant national health problem, and it won't be addressed by any of the proposed national health care problems, so we're going to have to move to generally eating egg beaters.
well, I thought what you were saying was that Donald Trump seems willing to beat up on everybody, and so next he would be beating up on eggs.
Well, that
Eggs.
too.
Yeah.
Let me have
you know,
that.
and at least the egg replacement populations would survive this sad time, and those
Survive.
Yeah, I mean those
Clever use of the phrase. Let's have
egg
that
whites
next
as well.
picture. That's enough. Let's have that next picture.
I'm with you on the egg replacement.
Okay, so this looks to me like some sort of a bird. I don't know if it's a bird that has a message, a bird that sings, but Tom?
It's a bird that teaches Zumba. It's the future of the White House, the future of the country, the future of the White House, because Trump has really been enjoying his Zumba lessons from the instructor that brings us the sources, and he's saying,
The one who took over from the yoga instructor that nobody was working with.
yes, this person wasn't very congenial or easy to work with, so
Well,
a
it's
Zumba
because I
instructor took
believe
over.
most of the White House staff has adopted Buddhism, so the movement would actually be against. So the yoga instructor is potentially a spy. In fact, I think has no job basically.
Zumba is actually more movement than yoga, so I'd find that hard to believe.
I want to see that last picture now. Oh, excuse me, Tom. Did you have something
I was just
to
going to
add?
say, I'd like to see that again because it looks like someone has flipped my bird. Did you do?
I
You need to
hadn't-
talk to your PA guy. I thought we weren't allowed.
I
to flip the
have
bird
no
on
control
camera.
over what they do. They're union. So anyway, I have one more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It makes me
unions
think.
are-
It makes me think.
If you say something, if you say too much, you'll also kind of anger the mob bosses that run the unions anyway. So.
Oh, this
That
a
is
Teamster
that
operation.
not
Quiet.
Barr's guitar from when he was in the large intestines?
I think you're onto something, and I think you see
That could be
one
where the
of you-
secret server could be hiding in that guitar.
Now you people are not you are not associating yourselves with the pictures you sent me, but I want to take your statement a little bit further down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if we had some confessionals from people like William Barr, who has a career as a failed punk rock musician, if you want to call it that. And I think he might bare his soul, and I think others might bare their souls. And since I brought together here a bunch of people who, well, they don't like bearing their souls, but they did bare their souls. And since they bared their souls, I hope that helps all of you out there to somehow face the demons that are inside of you, because my people brought me those pictures. We didn't show it, and no, I have more time. He always lets me go past 1 minute. No. So anyway, until next time I think I'll just come alone, because I don't want you to be confused thinking that my sources don't agree with each other. Usually they do agree, and
No, we
if you
don't.
were
No.
if you were paying attention to tonight, you realize that they agreed on quite a few things, among them the fact that we're in pretty deep waters right now, and none of us really know how to swim.
Well, maybe
So-
if there had been more of us here, we would have had more of a consensus agreement, because statistics.
Well, you heard it first. Well, not first. You heard it. You heard it, didn't you?
What?
Well,
I don't think I heard.
whatever she said.
No speak it English.
Let's just have some theme music, because I'm going to have to lecture these people after we get home about bringing documents here that no one should see, even though it was my idea. And I take full responsibility, and I'll be seeing you all again sometime down the road, as long as they let me come back on the air, and I won't be in the sleep state.
Do I need to apply for a new job, boss?
你想跟我一起吃饭吗？
No me digas.
Rozbaneczek się to będą
Yo
Fuji,
quería decir.
Jaski, Taski,
Venga,
You
vas a
may
cambiar
as
tu
well.
pelo.
Get a new
Claro,
truck,
claro, claro.
Ahora que tenías.
really press your luck, and so forth.
Are you sure about that? You sure about that?
You may as
Jaski,
well
Taski, but the
And the floor is
Take up
lava.
a hobby,
singer is claro, claro,
Well,
claro,
yeah.
claro.
work for a lobby, and so forth.
I'm getting too old for this kind of work, I think.
And I feel like I just got home. And I feel like I just got home.
You may as well
Quicker
I
than
feel like
a ray
Take
of
a
light.
vacation.
tied to the whipping post.
Quicker than a ray of
have
light.
a conversation, and so on.
Well,
She's got herself a universe. I've got myself a universe.
I can't argue with you. I mean, I used to be able
can,
to,
you
but
did.
they changed the rules. I'm supposed
You
to
may as well
agree with you
go
now.
to church on Sunday. You may as well
Remember, we
quarterback
gotta-
on Monday.
Gotta burn all
You
these
may as well
documents.
start a
No.
world war.
Can't we just put them on a secret server?
Wish upon a
Oh yeah,
star.
let's
and
just
so
file
on.
them in the secret server. That'll be fine.
I'll head straight up to Foxborough straight away to
Which
Patriot
one?
Stadium.
A, B, C.
Well, the one on the grassy knoll has been weather damaged, so there's no point in attempting.
I'm going to
use
the
that one.
bowling alley. That's where I'm going.
Find the whistleblower,
Yeah,
the whistleblower.
the whistle bowler.
The whistle bowler.
The whistle bowler. Whistle bowler.
Say that 3 times fast.
I almost could not hold it together when you said
Go on
detachable
down
subpoena.
to the seashore.
Detachable subpoena.
You'll see some water, it's hard to ignore. Been come down and look at a pebble.
The way you were looking at me, there's some where I'm looking at you as I'm delivering, and I'm going, oh shit, I'm about to crack because I'm looking at your face.